right, so welcome back. So you know what we're going to be doing. We're going to be building movie quotes together. So to start the implementation, the first thing I like to do is I like to set up a place for my version control. As always, I use either Ada or GitHub. Interestingly enough, I do typically use Ada because it's internal to Rules-Holman. But Daryl has the servers down today because it's summertime here. And so I can't use Ada today. So I guess I'm going to use GitHub. That's good for me to do as well. So I guess what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new repository here, and I'm going to call this one movie quotes is probably what you should do. I have a lot of things called movie quotes, so I think I'm going to namespace mine and call it ngfire movie quotes. And so a description is learning to use Angular Fire 2 with list data. Public or private, just don't care. Initialize with a README or not, just don't care. Whenever I put things on GitHub, I do typically add the MIT license, but to be honest, I don't really care about that. So I'm going to go ahead and create that repository. Since I did it in GitHub, I could clone it with their tool called GitHub Desktop, and that'd be fine. Just to be consistent with what I do with Ada, though, I'm going to go ahead and copy the path to the repository to my keyboard, and then I'm just going to say git clone. And then I'm going to paste it right there. Once you download the repository, the first thing that I do is I go into it, and then I do an ng new, and this app is called movie quotes. I'm going to do an ng new movie quotes. And I'm going to kick that off. While that's going, just because I like to multitask, I'm going to go over to the Firebase console. If you did a good job making your links, you'll have a nice little link to the Firebase console. And I'm going to create a new project over here. So I'd say add new project. I recommend that you call your new project your username movie quotes. I've of course already got one called that, so I'm going to hit cancel, but you should create yours. Once you've got your movie quotes, here I found mine. Oh, by the way, you can see mine has this like crazy number at the end. That's just because it's so old. When it got imported, it had a crazy number get added. So inside your movie quotes, go to your rules, and what we want to do is we want to set them to true. Now you'll notice that mine are all crazy, and that's because rules in Firebase are kind of interesting things. I'm going to talk about them a little bit, but I'm not gonna make you do it right. So if you made your rules, here's what we did before. We had .read, and we just set it to true, and then we had .write, and we set it to true as well. And that was it. So if you want to do that, just change where it says auth not null to true, and that's totally fine, then click publish. If you want to get fancier though, here are some fancier rules. I don't teach rules in this class because I suspect that the rules system are going to be changing, and I don't know, I'm not too worried about it if it's going to be changing. Also, to be honest, most people for their projects, they don't care about rules, right? So we're not making production apps that we have to worry about attacks. We're just trying to make things work. So typically I just say true, but here I'll just kind of show you what rules look like. So here are the rules. So the first thing you'll notice is that there are rules within the quotes path. That means that if you try to write to any path other than quotes, it's just going to fail because there's no read or write rule setup, so it defaults to false. So first off, you can only write things inside the quotes path. By default, the rules are true. So that means that you don't have to be authenticated. Anybody can read, anybody can write. There are some more rules though. And the rules say that inside the quotes path, there are going to be objects that are movie quotes. The way you do this is you put a dollar on here, which makes it a wildcard, right? So the things that are in here are going to be objects. And these objects are going to consist of a couple of children. One is movie, the other is quote. And then the wildcard to match everything else would be validate false. So what this says is I can only put in objects that have a movie and a quote. If they have anything else, it's not valid. Additionally, that movie has to be a string. So there's this special thing called new data, and it makes sure that the thing is a string. So with these rules, if you want to publish them, you totally can. It will make sure that only data that fits our format will get put into our database. That way, if like, you know, we do have a hacker or something that comes along, they can still put things in, but it has to be the right format. So there's the rules. Use them or not. Maybe I'll put a link to them above the video if you want to copy them in. That's all I'm really going to say about rules. All right, so we got that part set up. Let's go over and see if our setup finished. Of course it finished. It probably finished a long time ago. So we'll go into movie quotes. And the first thing that I like to do is I like to do an ng serve. So I do ng serve. It'll start kicking itself off. Next thing I do is I open up Visual Code Studio. So in Visual Code Studio, I'm going to open this new folder. Looks like it is right there. So there's ng fire, and so I'm going to open up the class case one. And it should say that I've got, you know, 29 files or so. It's going to change over time that need to be checked in. Then the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and open up my localhost 4200, and it says App Works. And I'm going to open up the inspector. I kind of feel like putting it at the bottom today. And make sure that nothing's going wrong there. Next thing I want to do is I want to get my code checked in. So this was an ng new movie quotes. And since this is the first check-in, it might not be connected yet. Oh, that's interesting. With GitHub, it did automatically connect. So I'm going to make sure that's synced, and I should be all set. And by the way, if you want to, you can totally see that your work actually did stuff. So I've got a movie quotes folder, and it's got a bunch of stuff in it. I was confident it was going to work. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with this guy. Let's do a couple just basic things. And then after a couple of basics, we'll just kind of cut things off. So the first thing I want to do, I've kind of been wanting to do this for a while. There's a spec file here. I'm going to go ahead and delete the spec file. And then inside the HTML, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to say, instead of title, I'm just going to say movie quotes. And then just to kind of do a little bit, I'll just print out a movie down there. You'll notice that movie doesn't exist yet, so it doesn't display anything over there. And then over here where it says title, I'm just going to say movie. And I'm just going to say the Lego movie. And honestly, the only reason that I felt like doing that in this video is now I just kind of know that things are definitely set up. I can make changes. I can see changes. I've got a new project that's kind of ready to go. So I can check this in as basic testing to make sure I'm ready to go. Normally I put more official sounding commit messages in, but that's how I was feeling today. All right, so come back next time and we'll start writing the code for this guy. All right, see you then. Bye.